What's up, guys? Johnny here. Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to have a chat with you guys about perspectives. Now, when I actually started with the idea to do this video, I had a little bit of a different idea of what I wanted to talk about. But I realized that what I've kind of learned has also changed my perspective on things, and I really wanted to share that kind of experience and thought process with you guys. So I don't know if you saw the video that I put out a couple of days ago, but it was basically my first attempt at doing freestyle flying in about 5 months. Now, around 5 months ago, I started getting really hooked on drone racing, and what I decided was that because I wanted to be as good as I could for drone racing, I wanted to try to make it to that regional finals. That was kind of like an immediate goal of mine. I decided whatever time I found to fly, I wanted to get out and race. And pretty much from that point forward, I said, no more flippy floppies. And that was kind of interesting for me because when I first started flying, which was about 11 months ago now, all I wanted to do was flippy floppies. I had no interest in doing drone racing. I just didn't care to compete. It wasn't my thing. I wanted to go fly around objects, feel like a bird in the air, you know, feel like Superman just soaring through the sky. And that's what I wanted to do, and that's what I did do. But once I tried racing, I was like, man, that thing's a lot of fun, and I just focused on it. So what I decided to do is, back when I was first starting to fly, the first 5-inch I built was a QAV 210 clone, which I got right here. This thing had Emax 2205 motors. I think it had little B ESCs at the time, an F3 Racing F3 board, and that was pretty much it. Back when I built this thing, I didn't even know what a clone frame was. I didn't even know what a QAV 210 was. All I knew was I wanted to try these drone things. I wanted to fly, and I went on Amazon.com and said, what's the cheapest piece of carbon fiber I can buy? And I picked this thing up for 16 bucks. So obviously my knowledge has changed quite a bit. I've learned a lot as I went, but that's where this thing came from. 16 bucks, and it's still alive and kicking. So anyway, what I decided to do was I wanted to stop using all my racing frames and things I had for racing and try flying this again. You know, what does it feel like? Is it a piece of junk? Do I even enjoy it? You know, these motors, these RS-2205 motors, they're like 3 generations old now. The motors I used to race are a lot more powerful. What's it like flying this thing around? I remember back when I was doing flippy floppies, these things felt insane. I thought, like, there's no way I could ever max these things out. There's no way I could ever go full throttle. There's no way. This thing is just crazy. Well, time has kind of shifted that perspective, right? I got into racing, and this thing was a beast at racing when I first tried it, but pretty soon, it didn't really cut it for me. I was going faster and faster and faster around race courses, and I wanted the machine that was going to help me do better and better and better times. And I saw that happening, and that's how I went up with the Mach 1 racer. Go check out my video series on that. Check out my racing practice on that. I feel like I've gotten pretty good with it. That's also what I raced at Nationals. So that's been a great racer for me. But I decided, what can I do now with what I've learned through racing with my old school RS-2205 mixed with my old school frame? How's it fly? And I gotta tell you, I took it out to the park to fly around, and I had a ton of fun. I did not care that this thing was not as powerful as my racer. I didn't even notice it while flying. It had plenty of punch to get me up and over trees and flipping and soaring and flying backwards and flying upside down. I mean, it was just so much fun. I really missed doing that acro freestyle flying. It was just so much fun. So then after I did that, right, and I made that video that you guys saw, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna take out my racing drone, my Mach 1 with my rifle motors. What does that feel like for speed, performance, punch? And I did a punch out with this in the park, and then I did a punch out with my racing frame in the park, and the difference was huge, all right? One was way more powerful. If I'm looking at bench tests, if I'm looking at, you know, racing motor comparisons or motor comparisons and freestyle motor comparisons, there's no comparison between the two. The performance is insane on the racing motor, not so much on this, right? But what I did after that is I put the racing frame away, and I just had some fun with this thing in the park, all right? And I didn't miss the performance at all. I didn't miss that punch out. This thing was doing everything I needed. And I've loved flying this thing. I've kept flying in the park a few more times, and I love it. So, you know, what's the point in kind of telling you guys this? Well, it's kind of my perspective on flying and what you have, right? Like, I like reading reviews on stuff. I like buying technology things. I like seeing what's new and interesting and different. I like buying things and trying things, right? But really, when it comes to freestyle flying, take what you got, take what you can afford, get out there and fly. These motors, they run about 13 bucks now. This frame is like $16. You can put this drone together pretty easily, pretty cheaply, and it's gonna be having a ton of fun. People commented, you know, that the flying looked pretty good. People seemed to like it. That was all with this frame right here. Not only that, I did change the flight controller to a DOIS F4. All the PIDs, everything, all stock. I didn't touch anything. I just put that flight controller in there. I updated the ESC because I wanted to run D-Shot, and I went out there and flew. It flies great, super smooth. I can do all the acro kind of things I want, and I'm just having a blast doing this. And basically, I'm spending this whole week, just whenever I can get out, just do acro flying with this thing, have a ton of fun. I've really gotten back and connected, and I'm having just tons and tons and tons of fun. And yeah, I wanted to share with you guys. So guys, if you're getting into flying, you have something to fly, get out there and fly it. It's probably not the gear that's holding you back. There's so much I can be learning with this thing. There's so much everyone can be learning with whatever they have. Just get out there, fly, you'll improve your skills. Now, the other part of this, right? I told you I'm talking about perspectives, and that's kind of how I look at gear, and just these motors don't matter. I'm enjoying this thing as much as anything else right now, right? Having different motors would not change my level of enjoyment. And when I'm doing freestyle, that's why I'm doing it. I'm just doing it to have a good time and have fun. So the second item that goes to perspective is the actual freestyle flying. Like I said, I haven't done flippy floppies and freestyle and stuff like that for about 5 months. I was solely focused on racing. Once the race season ended, I said, it's flippy floppy time. Let's just try it. Let's see how it goes. And what I found really interesting is when I got out there and flew, it felt like my skills didn't progress at all from when I gave up freestyle. And I had a little bit of regret at first. I'm like, I'm having tons of fun, but man, maybe I should have been mixing in flippy floppies with my racing practice, and maybe I'd be better than I am right now. It felt like I was doing all the same stuff I did before. It didn't feel like I had improved at all. Now, when I had that feeling after flying that first day, I went home, I broke out some of my old footage, because I keep all my footage, and I looked at what my freestyle looked like before I took a break to do racing. I'm glad I had that footage, because it turns out that it was nothing at all like I was picturing in my mind. In my mind, when I started flying around after a few months of flippy flop, it's like, wow, you know, I'm LeDrib out there doing these things. I mean, not really, but it felt like, you know, I was doing all these tricks. And now when I went back and watched the footage, I'm going a lot slower, like bouncing all around. It wasn't smooth at all. I'm like, oh man, that's not what I remembered. That's not what I recall myself doing. That's not the experience I thought I was having. And it really clicked. It said, you know what? I haven't done freestyle flying in 5 months, but just getting out and racing and learning how to take lines, hit small gaps, go through gates, really helped with my control of this thing. And even though this wasn't the drone I was flying racing drones, the skills translate. The sticks, they're the same thing. Even when I do freestyle, the rates I use are not the same rates I use for racing, and yet I notice I'm just way smoother. I can attack things with confidence. I'm going through smaller gaps. I'm not worried about hitting things in places that before I'm sure I would have been terrified. And I think what happened is, when I was flying before, I was terrified I was gonna crash. I was worried about getting too close to objects. I was kind of, you know, not real calm and smooth. And what's happened is through racing, I've gained a lot of that confidence. I have much better control of this drone, and now I'm getting closer to objects, going faster on things, putting tricks together sooner and sooner versus what I was doing before. And it's just, I didn't think I'd improved much, but I improved a ton. So all I'm saying here is, get out there, fly whatever you find to be fun. If you like racing, do racing. You like flippy floppies, do flippy floppies. It's all the same skills. Just make sure you're flying. you'll keep improving, you'll keep getting better. And then, you know, if you're doing flippy floppies for a while and now you go get into racing, you have the basics down. You're, you know, hitting gaps out doing freestyle. You can be able to put that to the test, do it in racing, and vice versa. If you're doing racing, you're gonna gain confidence with your flying ability. You're gonna be able to translate that into doing flippy floppies, flying over objects, trees, dives, all that kind of stuff. And so really my whole thing on Perspective is just make sure you take whatever you got, get out there and fly it. You don't need better equipment unless you're really at the top peak of racing, and just have a good time. It's gonna apply, and make sure you keep doing it more and more and more. I love this thing to death, and I'm trying to fly a bunch, and I think it's really starting to show on my skills, and I hope to kind of be able to mix in the flippy floppy freestyle with that racing, make sure I'm doing both, because I just love the hell out of both of them. And that's kind of all I wanted to chat with you guys about, just the way you're looking at things, how much fun this is, even with these motors, even with this older technology, this frame, how smooth it can be, and how really it comes down more to you, your experience, your practice, and what you're doing, more so than the specific gear you're buying. The gear is fun. I love to buy things, try new things out, but really it's about you getting out there and practicing and having a good time. And when you really get to the top of like racing, maybe then is it really the gear that's gonna be holding you back. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna leave it there. I'm here in this park, about ready to rip, have a good time, fly over these trees, do my little flippy floppies, and I'll catch you all next time. Peace!
I feel your hands on mine. Tonight we're free, we're freer than ever. I wanna remember. Oh, we run every endeavor. I wanna remember. Step on the rim, I've got your hand, and now we're way down, fade out. No, was it your plan? Can't understand. I love the air you bring.